talking about past lives in this video. We get asked about past lives quite a lot because we do what's called Akashic Records readings. So the Akashic Records is a record of your soul's journey through time. So obviously when we're talking about our soul and the incarnations it's had, past lives is something that comes up all the time as part of our readings.
We've all had hundreds of them going right back.
Yeah.
And chances are we've been repeating the same cycles for a few of them too.
Yeah, so we want to talk about those repeating cycles a little bit because it's something that, is so prominent with all of us. So basically, if we go through an experience in a past life, and this can be positive or negative, what happens is that we often carry the energetic vibration of that incident in our Akashic records, but also in our aura. And every time we incarnate on the earth, we kind of keep attracting that same pattern because we have to either liberate ourselves from it or there's a soul lesson around that certain incident or circumstance. So for instance, if you've got a pattern of being in abusive relationships, let's say, I know it's a bit negative and dark, but if you have a pattern of that, there's usually a past life source for that. So our job as readers is to find the point in your timeline when that occurred so that we can release it. We can bring it from the unconscious mind to the conscious mind so that we can be liberated from it.
Yeah, and I guess, well, that was a lot. I guess on a more positive note as well, we can look at the dark stuff, but we can also look at the light stuff in readings too. So we can look at soul gifts, things you've done in past lives, things you may not have been tapped into in this life, but are longing to sort of be tapped into to sort of align you with what you're supposed to be doing as well. So it can be really positive in that way. So I guess to get to the Akashic Records, Colleen and I do it through readings and we use a prayer, but there's different ways of getting there. So some people, you get to them through the dream state, through deep levels of meditation, through the use of psychedelics,
any sort of
trance state,
altered states of consciousness. So we do readings for a lot of healers or spiritual entrepreneurs who are either trying to take themselves to that next level, but they recognize there's some sort of block, there's something kind of holding them back. Fear. And so the great thing about looking at past lives is that we can recognize where maybe that fear started, or that because there's a lot of blocks usually around the throat chakra about speaking spiritual truths, because if we look at human history, you know, the medieval times, for instance, you know, witch burnings and all of that, but then even further back, ancient past lives and things like that, often a lot of people have been prosecuted for those spiritual beliefs if they're not in line with the mainstream at that time. So often we can hold a lot of, we've had to do heaps of work around the throat chakra and healing a lot of past lives where we've been prosecuted for voicing these opinions because they may not have been the popular voice of that time. So we do that a lot for healers, which is really amazing and liberating.
I also wanted to mention quickly around karmic connections that can come up during past life readings and stuff as well. So chances are, if you're in a relationship or a friendship with someone currently, you've danced with them in a past life. So it's always interesting to go back and see what part they played in our past lives and the power dynamics that are at play there.
And often our families, we've known them before. Family connections and dynamics are so interesting because as souls, we're constantly learning from each other. And even things like romantic relationships, the relationship can't split until we've learnt all those lessons as a soul. So sometimes we need a bit of help though of releasing perhaps an ex-partner or something like that, or even a friendship that's kind of perhaps gone toxic. But then also the positive side of things is that when we can release perhaps the toxic ones in our life, is that we can make space for other people to come into our life, other souls that we might know, and usually we know if we know them in a past life because we have that instant kind of connection.
It's almost like electric.
Instant comfort and, you know, kind of connection with that person. So it's always positive, it's always negative, it depends. But soul gifts and bringing them to light, you know, if you're a lawyer in this lifetime, chances are you've done similar type work in past lives. We work as artists, so we've had many lifetimes where we've worked as artists and we've honed that skill, because then when we came in this lifetime, from a very young age, we had really strong artistic gifts. So you couldn't really, you know, our parents aren't artists. That's come from something else. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some amazing stories out there around that.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, so I guess if you're curious about learning more about your past lives or the Akashic Records, book in for a reading. If not, feel free to investigate it yourself. And thanks for listening.
Thank you. See ya.